This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Kanika Vasudeva. And I want to thank you for being on the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much, Phantom, for having me on the show.
So, before we get to the heart of your story, we always ask every guest a couple questions. One of the questions is, what motivates you, and why do you do what you do?
So I love the question. I am an energy coach. And why do I do what I do? Let me just talk more about what I do first. So I help people tune into their energy and then shift the world around them. So if they're struggling with stress and anxiety, or if they have some childhood trauma that they want to clear up, or they just want to have a better life, they want to have more money, they want to have more loving relationships, I help them change that energy and just bring that to life. And why I love this is because it really transforms their lives. It does something good for my client. It brings in more light to the world as well. And isn't it such an amazing place if we are all just feeling a lot better, a lot happier? I think we have the world which is wired so negatively. So if we can all do our bit and make the world a happier place, I would just love to be part of that. And every time it happens, every time my clients feel great, like honestly, I feel like I won. It's my biggest blessing.
Well, I think that I like in the creative space. I think a lot of people get into the arts is because they want to pay it forward, and they believe with their work they do, they can connect to people and they can make them feel something, and a lot of times our goal is to make the audience feel better, to
Mhm.
feel something like where art will bring something to life, will make it worth living. They when you are an artist, you give somebody that spark. It's like, oh, well, maybe I could be an artist too, or maybe like I can not just think about the bad things that happen today, but kind of dive into something that is a universal like feeling or a vibe or frequency, and we all can feel kind of feel off of that. And I think that's where where I'm coming from, but I think it's the same idea because you're talking about art and life,
Absolutely.
and that is the nature of art.
Yes, absolutely. And that's how my name for the business came as well, Art of Life Centered. It was more around, well, life doesn't have to be serious. Life is a lot around just enjoying. Life's a lot around um, finding joy. um we get caught up like, okay, this is the life, this is hard, like going to work or looking after your kids or whatever responsibilities we have. But what if we could create joy? What if we could just have more fun while doing our lives? What if it could life could be more meaningful? And I'm saying what if, but really what I mean is that all of this is possible. You can live the life of your dreams. Your life can be really meaningful. You can feel like you're living in heaven every single day and every single moment. That is definitely possible. So I just want to bring people closer to that. And kudos to all the other people and you as well, who are trying to bring more of that connection, more of that meaning into our lives.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's really important to kind of have that. I always think of it like a Victorian idea of looking glass self examination, and the connection from the inner to the outer, right?
Mhm.
So, like, if you look at yourself and you start to say, "Why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Like, why do I have these beliefs? Why do I, get stuck in a loop?" And then connect is like, "Hey, this is not just something I feel. Other people feel it too." So then you're not alone. Because I think there are a lot of problems that people, feel anomy, or they feel like they're alone, or they're victims, or they're not connected. Like you have to get outside of yourself, by taking what's inside and talking and listening
Mhm.
to other people, and coming to getting somebody that can help you heal from a loss, because that's what you do. You help individuals heal from loss, deal with grief and subconscious blocks. And what I was wondering in terms of like the one of the methods is like Akashic reader, records reader, and then the other is you're an energy coach. And so maybe both of those are things that maybe the audience is not familiar with. So maybe you want to start with one or the other. Maybe the Akashic records reader, and tell people what does that mean, and how do you employ that, and what it means for your practice.
Totally. So Akashic records are like our soul's library of anything and everything that's ever happened to us. So think of your life, think of all the decisions that you've made, think of your growing up years, everything that is captured in the Akashic Records. And now here's the beautiful thing. Akashic Records will have that information about you, about me, about literally everything else that is in existence. So when we go into the Akashic Records, it also really contains information about why something is happening. You were just talking about, well, it all starts with me inside. So this is literally at the core of it talks with us. I'll give you examples, right? Like we can have a certain problem with money. We might not feel very comfortable, or money might not be easy for some of us. And a lot of times when I look at that, I'll find that, okay, they've come from families where a family wiring has been that it's hard work to get money. And so as a child, we grow up in that and then we bring that forward. But when you can rewire that programming there, then things start to change. So this is the childhood, this is the conditioning that we've come up with. And you can really pretty much go in the Akashic Records and you can clear your childhood space, you can clear your inner teenage space, you can clear your inner adult there. Then there are also things that we're carrying from our past lives. Like in a past life, you might have had a lot of money and then someone got killed or you got killed because you had a lot of money, or there was a war and then all your money got taken away, or some other bad things happened to you, so you still carry that wound today in this current lifetime. Long and short of the story is that in the Akashic Records, because they're holding all of this information, they're holding all of this energy. When you clear that, you can actually clear the patterns and the blockages in your life and you can move faster ahead. So that's what I do as an Akashic Records reader. I really tap into someone's Akashic Records and then go and heal all that energy and really move them out of that root cause, whatever is blocking them. So often my clients will find the sessions really transformative, like they were having a pattern of repeated toxic relationships. And after the session, they're like, oh my God, like now it's really shifted. And I found a partner who just really compliments me, really gets me. And it's so different to whatever I've ever had, as an example. And as an energy coach, it's similar. It's operating in the same place. It's just using the energy and changing the energy so that what we experience outside is different. Um, and energy as well is just like you could tweak it for money, you could tweak it for love, you could tweak it for expanding your business and everything, because everything has energy, right? When you start shifting that, and it's a little bit more than mindset, but when you start shifting that, you can really start shifting the world outside.
I think mindset is everything because, like, a lot of times, people have a limiting beliefs, and that's kind of we talk about that a lot on the show with a lot of people we've had on. But a lot of people look at like, well, maybe it's the other person's fault, like it's
Mhm.
outside themselves, right? That why they're in the situation, or they're stuck in a loop, and they're stuck in like you said, maybe it's a family history loop and they can't get outside of it because their mindset is can't, they're like in the can't mode, whether like why can't I mode, like
Mhm.
why is that not possible, where you have people who are innovators are not scared of the result, or maybe less like hurt by the negative feedback, because a lot of times if you do something that's on the cutting edge, there might not be a lot of people that agree with you at the time you do it. And so
Totally.
a lot of times you're like out there twisting in the wind. You're the only person. You're the pioneer. And we have a sense as human beings, we like to be safe. We're scared of being that person out there because, well, the wolf's at the door. And if you're, go back to ancient times, like if you're the person that gets stuck outside the tribe where the saber tooths and the wolves are, well, you're highly likely not to make it. So we have this tendency of all these virtual wolves and saber tooths when you go and put yourself outside of like the normal, like everyday, you know, kind of phoning it in safety. Well, it's safe, but it's boring.
Mhm.
But to me, it's
Yes,
like,
and you're not moving forward. You're not
yeah,
really getting to the stuff that you want to get to. You're not creating the good life that you want.
yeah, you'll be stagnant. Like if you like 'cause if you have just enough, but you're just like, well, I'm kind of stuck. If I have just enough, I can't go to Paris. Like I can't go to Disneyland. I can't get that car. I can't get this. I can't get that
Mhm.
because like that's a money thing, right? But like if there's other ways to think, like there's other ways, like well, maybe if you weren't doing this thing that's like easy for you, but it's not giving you what you need. So your comfort is causing your discomfort.
Correct, correct, correct. But I think there's also more to it than mindset because sometimes, yes, for example, someone wants to go to Paris or someone wants to go to Disneyland or whatever their block is, right? And they can't really do that. Mindset is okay. For example, I'll just tell myself, hey, I'm a money magnet and money always easy comes to me. And you'll do all of those things, but the underlying wires, let's say, there's underlying the energetic body is underlying. So you might have some past life trauma. You might have some conditioning which is so strong while you were growing up. Maybe your teachers told you certain things, your parents said some certain things, or you saw them behaving in certain ways. They've really got it ingrained. So mindset is a part of it, but you've also really got to shift those root causes where you're picking up stuff from. You've really got to clean the energy from there. I'll give you an example, right? Like there was this lady who came to me because she had repeated female infections. Like she would just go off, some like fungal infection, then she would have a vaginal bacterial infection, and it was a back and forth, continuous. So she's like, I just don't understand what is really happening. And then when I looked at her, we tuned into a life that was in the 1800s. And in that life, she is pregnant. She is on the delivery table. So she's like lying down on the bed and she's trying to push the baby out. But 1800s, they don't have as much medical facilities. So there's a lot of people in the room. I saw at least four. And she's trying to push the baby out. Now, the baby is coming out, but it's a nice, healthy baby, and she's really pushing. There's a lot of blood loss. There's a lot of time that goes on with that really del- delivery where they didn't have other methods to help her. So there's a lot of blood loss. But by the time she's managed to push the child out, the child's passed away.
Mm,
So she's okay. And she just carries the pain and the trauma. And that is 1800s. And I am talking to her now, right? Like that was one previous lifetime, long, long time ago. I mean, you wouldn't have those same dresses, same people, like nothing, right?
yeah.
Nothing is in common with this lifetime. And yet you're carrying that imprint. Um, so when I healed that energy, what I also healed with that was like I healed that, and we looked at why those infections were happening with her. Part of the thing was that at that time, she really needed as much to depend on the other people. She also needed to tune into her own body and allow her body to push out. Like, yes, work with the medical scientists and the doctors at the time, but also believe in her own body, where she'd sort of kind of left, like, okay, they're going to look after me and they're going to tell me what to do and so on. Whereas if she trusted her instinct, it would have been a little different.
Mm. Yeah, 'cause they all the so you're saying like her responsibility for her self-care she put in other people?
Yes, yes. And this is what she was doing again. Her soul was bringing to her again in this lifetime because she needed to get over the fungal infection. So, yes, relying on the medical system, going to the doctors, and so on. I'm not saying anybody no not do that, but also taking your own responsibility, like understanding or asking your body, what is the stress below this? What is it that I'm really fighting? And then dealing with that. But that's not just a beautiful thing. Like we cleared out the energy there and we did all the work there. And she goes like, hey, now I understand why I don't want to talk about kids. Like I love kids, but the moment anyone says that, hey, when are you planning or do you think about kids and so on, she's like, I just do not want to talk about it. but
Hmm.
it was because
The
she'd
trauma.
lost a child. And
Hmm.
so she's so afraid subconsciously that, okay, if she has a child, will that
It's never
child
happened
be?
again. Yeah.
Yeah. So she still carries that. So it's so amazing that our past life imprints, because you might do the mindset work here, right? Like she loves kids. In her mindset, in her conscious mind, she's not even aware
It's a
of what's going
subconscious.
on.
So the subconscious mind is still from the past life. It's got this thing that she hasn't been able to uncover because she didn't really have that looking glass self look, like, Victorian thing I always use. But
Correct.
the idea
Correct.
is that self examination to the point where you're not what's like conscious, because the conscious mind is like 5%. 95% of what's going on is your subconscious mind. And if you can actually get to that and understand it and understand how to reprogram it or assess it to actually
Mhm.
know the story
Yeah.
of your past lives, then you're going to be more aware, like awareness, like situational awareness and past life awareness. And
Yeah.
you kind of need to have that awareness, but sometimes we walk around with blinders on in a fog, you know.
Yes, yes, and there are layers to awareness. And once you become aware, I think, like you're saying, half of the battle is already done. You've already cleared out a lot of the energy because simply you're aware. It just means that you're ready to let go. And then the healing starts happening. Sometimes people I see, like they can be caught in that past life for a little while till they're supposed to clean it. But then you can always use techniques to really heal that, to clear that out, and then you're out of it for good. Like it does not impact you. Like I can tell you that that lady shift with that session before and after was just phenomenal, because she's not carrying that wound anymore. She's not having to, she's found her sense of empowerment.
That's interesting because that kind of goes into the idea like fears, anxiety, and pain can come from past lives. And so you did the assessment with this kind of case study that we just talked about. Is this person like came to realize like they had a child that died in childbirth, and they it was uncovered. They didn't know that, and that was the block, because people have these,
Mhm.
they have a block, and they don't, sometimes it's not something as heavy as that, but it's still a block.
Correct. Correct. Yes.
So this is the method. Like if you feel lost or stuck, is actually reading these Akashic records, and or you helping people understand it and getting them to realize that that is something that they have to process, right? Or they have to at least envision or come to from the back to the front. You know,
Yeah, so I have two methods because they're clients who are just going through, like, let's say a deeper trauma, they want a deeper healing, or they just want something faster. So then I'll usually do this one on one Akashic Records reading with them and healing with them, because it's really transformative. If somebody is really deep in the trenches, like they're very much in a toxic relationship or they're really suffering from something, I cannot expect them to, okay, now just get up and look at the sky outside and, look how beautiful the world is. Sometimes you just don't have that capacity. And that's why these one on one sessions exist. But my favorite part also is just doing or teaching people energy healing for themselves. So I do these live sessions, which is the link that you've got up here. I do these free live sessions for people, where I teach them how to work with their own energy and simple tools that you can start doing anytime, and you can really shift the energy for you, whether you are dealing with stress, trauma, anxiety, a past toxic ex, anything. You can really deal with that. And I use these live sessions to just give people a demo of what they can do themselves, give them techniques that they can really walk away with. And so I teach energy healing as well to people, because I think that is like you're really empowering the masses, and then they're able to do it for themselves. And imagine if the whole world could really just go out and deal with their trauma, like they just knew, and then we would not pass it on. We would not pass it on to the taxi driver, we would not pass it on to our kids, we would not pass it on to our family. Like it gets better. It's just such a ripple effect, that I'm so passionate about bringing that to the world.
I was wondering about in terms like grief. like how people process grief with this with the methodology of either energy healing or Akashic record. Because like in my family, we had a beloved pet that just died last week. She was
Oh,
our cat had a lot of health problems. She was a rescue cat, and she was like an emotional support animal for my daughter who's disabled, and she only lived 6 years, and she because she had like pillow foot, she had a heart problem, she had problem with her teeth. We were always bringing her to the vet, and but she was a really sweet cat, and then she just had gotten an infection, and we did everything we could. We went to the vet, went to the hospital, we did every medical treatment that we could afford, you know, and then it was just like she was on this path that she was going to pass. And my daughter was like doing everything she can to like, we'll get the x-rays and get the injections, do this. But it was like, there was no way that she was coming back at this point. And so it was weird because she came to me in a dream and I saw blue light around her, and I'm part Cherokee. And I was like, I felt like she's saying that she's actually in a better place, that
yeah.
she'd gotten past the pain of this world and gotten to a place where she was, like in this blue light. And and then she had my daughter said she kind of came to her and let her know that she was in a better place. And we were able to kind of process it, and move beyond it. And we realized that she was absorbing all this trauma in her family as a cat, because cats tend to have a lot of ability to do that. And and now my daughter is actually in a really good place in her life. She's moved, been able to do things with her disability, and her cat got her to a point. And then she's like, well, the cat has done all this work, and now she needs to rest. She needs to move on. And we kind of processed that as a family to process our grief. But that's not something that years ago I probably wouldn't have processed it that way, you know. But
I'm so glad you're talking about this. I'm so, so glad. Because, yeah, so cats are amazing. Cats are also very good at energy work. And what they're really doing is when they come into a family, they are really absorbing a lot of what is happening in the family. Like I have seen cats when, you bring someone else. And that's why cats don't like moving as much, because they're sort of energy protecting the house, the place where they're at. They're really looking after energy. And you would have also noticed that when you have other people come into the house, then the cats just seem to be like a little different.
yeah.
And we could say that, the cat is being a cat and she's like being the queen of her world or his world, king. But they're also looking at everything energetically. For them, things have shifted and they're really working with that. So they're very busy energy workers.
Mm.
And it's beautiful that you talk about her coming in a dream and then, just telling you that, oh, she's okay, she's in a better place because she came in your life to do that. So part of what I do also, because of my experience, so I lost my daughter during pregnancy, but I lost her at 31 weeks. So I had to give birth to a stillborn, which
Mm.
is how I learned around loss, which is how I learned about grief, about processing grief. A big part of my closure then was to be able to connect with my daughter and just have those messages, just like you talked about your cat, but just talk with my daughter and understand why she came. And she actually is one of my biggest spirit guides. She guides a lot of my work.
Mm.
She's my best teacher, favorite teacher, teaches me so much. So there's a different relationship that way, but that's part of the work that I do as well. Really help parents, really help people who have lost some near and dear one and connect with them. Because often, we feel, maybe for the listeners, this is what I'll leave with because I can help individuals connect, but I think this will be a broader message that will help a lot of listeners, is that we tend to look in this lifetime and for us, death is a very finite thing. As it
Yeah.
is finite in the sense that the body is lost. You cannot cuddle your cat anymore. You cannot go and talk to your child, your loved one anymore the way you did. But your life is just a small, very, very small snippet to you as such. And when I say you, I mean your soul. I mean, like you would have had thousands of lifetimes. Like, think you go to bed and you have dreams
Yeah.
at night, but think like this lifetime is a dream for your soul, right? So your soul's going to have thousands and thousands of dreams, and this is just that one part.
It's a tiny
So,
piece of your whole universal record. Like, if
yes.
you've been, in this universe, and in my day job, I'm in programming and work with computers, but the idea of, like, energy and just everything's like electricity. Even my synthesis, I play with frequencies,
Yeah,
and I see what sine waves do, what square waves do, what pulse waves do, and I kind of make connections between, like, vocal communication, sound communication that you hear in the world, and these vibrations. They, like, to me, they're out there in the universe. They're out there
totally.
in space. They're in the water. They're in the air. They're in the ground. If you get an earthquake, you can feel vibrations everywhere, and there's energies. It never goes away. So you go from one form to the next form, and you have these transformations, and you have this history that you're saying. And so, like you're saying, you're just a piece of this whole tapestry that you've been out there. And the Western mindset tends to think it's final because of the body, because it's thinking about like the surface level body thing. And I get it, because that's what you know. But being part Cherokee, there's more than the body. There's a spirit, and there's a lot of stuff, like, out there that's not physical. There's a lot of things that are in the world that are not what you can touch.
I am so glad that you were sharing that because I truly believe that when we just look at our life is just like the tip of the iceberg. This lifetime is just that tip, whereas we are so much bigger. There's so much more to it than that.
The
So
vastness.
our loved ones as well, the ones that we've lost. And if you tune into them, because I've helped lots of parents tune in with their kids, um, I and with their parents and so on as well, like vice versa too. Um, I have never come across this place where the one we feel has transitioned or has gone. They're always peaceful, and all that they want is that, okay, you be happy now and you enjoy your life, and please don't live in sadness. Like, just enjoy your life, and we are still there. So I want to leave the people with a few things around just the lost piece. When they've lost someone, know that they're still there. You've lost them in the body, but they're still there. You can always connect to them. You can always just think of them. They want that. If you don't know how to, perhaps just set an intention, maybe for your cat as well. You could talk about certain things that, okay, show me that you're around me.
Mm.
And you could tell her that, okay, I would like to see perhaps some feathers or stones or whatever it is. Like my daughter, sometimes it can be very strange things. Like with my daughter, because I only had her during my pregnancy. I only saw her in the body when she was a stillborn, right? So her favorite way of coming to me is I get a very sweet smell in my mouth. And that
Mm.
happens because when I was pregnant with her, I would drink this tea. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I would drink this tea all the time.
Yeah, drink.
Sorry.
If you need some water, you can get it.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I just needed to do that. So I was, when I was pregnant with her, I would drink this tea, and this is this herbal tea from India, and it had a really sweet aftertaste, like just a very sweet, woody, but in a good sense,
Mm-hmm.
just that aftertaste. And that's like very peculiar. You wouldn't get it from like other things and so on. But that was my thing that I used to have while I was pregnant with her. And that's a way of communicating with me because
So it
it's just
comes back.
something that I cannot mistake. Like sometimes I'll have chips or I'll have something which is very savory and I'll have that sweet taste. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's her, because it's just so unmistakably
Unmistakable.
her.
Yeah.
So you could also ask for your loved ones to give you signs like that. Don't stop yourself from talking to them. Like just go that, hey, this is the time and I want to talk to you. Whatever your time is, whatever your boundaries are, you tell them that this is how I want to communicate with you. but you develop a new relationship with them. You don't have to live without them just because they're not in the body.
Yeah, I think that's important because people think it tends to be like very linear or very sequential, as like is here or
Yeah.
not here on this timeline. And I tend to think that sometimes that things happen out of sequence. Like you might go to a past out of sequence. You're not the previous life, but life way before that, or in between, or the continuum is not always like in some logical order that,
Hmm.
that you can kind of bounce around. And that's a different way of thinking or a different way of being in terms of having a more what I call like expansive mindset where you
Yes.
you don't like prejudge or eliminate the possibility of something happening with like a very narrow kind of stay in this lane.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's because Earth has this vibration, like we have time and space on Earth, right? Like, there's the morning, then there's going to be afternoon, and we have like past time, present time, future time, right? That's an Earth concept. But if I can maybe explain around soul or explain around lifetimes, probably that'll give people an idea. Think of an apple, and just as an example or as a metaphor, think that that apple is you, right? Now cut it into, let's say, 1,000, 2,000 slices. And one slice is your lifetime right now. Now, the other lives or the other 1,000, 2,000 pieces, they can be in other dimensions, in other lives. They can be in past lives on earth. They can also have parallel lives across everywhere because your soul, think around your thoughts, right? Like you can be here with me in the podcast right now. You can talk, you can think about a dolphin, you can think about Mount Everest all at the same time,
Mhm.
almost pretty much like, just right behind the other, or sometimes even overlapping. Similarly, the soul is operating similarly. So your other pieces, they can all be in different lifetimes. So we tend to think of time as very linear, like past, present, future, but reality is that everything, there's a lot going on. We're just seeing and we're just feeling this little tiny slice, the 1,000th slice of an apple, and we're judging the whole apple with that.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
that's
maybe that explains that a little bit
it.
more.
No, it's a lot of makes a lot of sense because like if there's all these different universes and all these parallel dimensions and different places and time, you could be here and there, or you could have a different timeline in a different body, a different form. Like you could have been like in a different animal form or
Hmm.
different being form. You could be somewhere else. You could be the totally different universe, not carbon based, right?
Correct.
You could be totally like something that's totally foreign to you. You have no idea, but it's in there. Like it could be in the timeline that's in the universal space that you've been in there, but you just don't recall it.
And your soul can be experiencing that. Your soul could just go like, okay, I want to be a dolphin right now, or a soul could be, okay, I want to, be on this tree right now, on top of this tree. My soul wants to be a bird right now. Like it could do so many things at the same time.
Yeah.
So we think that, oh, time is past, present, future, and it's this linear thing. And that's why it's so easy to tune into frequency. That's why when you want to tune into, that's the good thing, right? Like there's a lot that can happen with just telepathy, that there's a lot that can happen with just your intention. Like
Mhm.
literally, I feel like there's just no wrong way. If you want to connect with a loved one, if you want to connect with your intuition, it's, even if you don't know, just start by asking the question, hey, how do I do this? Or whatever makes you feel quiet and peaceful. But you will get there. And this is why, because it is just so vast and sort of so omnipresent that you can just tune into it.
And maybe we could conclude with like one thing I was looking at in terms of why does it feel like falling apart for some people when they start to heal, and is that like a barrier to people healing because they're scared of how that feels?
That is a brilliant question. Brilliant question. Like, why is healing so hard? And here's why, right? Like, okay, if I go back to the apple example, and we are in that 1000 slice, so we are in that little bit. And so a lot of things are happening. So, first of all, before I'm healing, is I'm looking at the outside world and I'm going like, that's your problem, that's your problem, that's your problem. I'm saying it's not mine. Right. Then you start healing, and suddenly, from blame, from that responsibility sitting somewhere outside, it's sitting to me. So that's the first hurdle where you start realizing, like, oh shit, okay, I was holding that shame. Okay, I was holding that guilt. Oh my God, I hold the grief. So you start seeing that. The other thing also is, and this is not something that's really talked about as often, is so we've talked about soul a little bit. There's also something, think of it like body hijacking. So when we are not present, when we are, an example could be like when we get angry and when we say something and we go like, oh my God, I don't know where that came out from. Like, this wasn't me, right? That's almost like a body hijacking because there's some other entity, there's some other being that's gotten in you, and that's making you do the stuff. So a lot of times when people are beginning their healing journey, before that, what's happened is there's just lots of beings, not one, not two, there's just lots who are sort of operating your life and you're unaware. Now, when you start healing, so you start looking at all the deeper heaviness inside you. Two, all these beings, they start understanding that, oh my God, you're going to drive your body now, like you're going to be in charge. So they sort of make it a little bit more difficult because they don't want you to kick them out.
Hmm.
So they've been operating out of you, but they don't want to be kicked out. So they'll do everything in their right to just sort of scare you and keep that away. And that's why that those first few bits are hard. And that's why, at least in my support circle, I do these weekly energy healing sessions. So it's a regular check where people come in all the time and they get a healing all the time. So it's all taken care of. It is gradual, it is gentle at the same time, and they're able to kick out things that don't really belong to them. So it's a nice, safe, supportive environment. But that's usually why the healing journey is a lot harder. I don't think a lot of people talk about the negative entities, but just like, day and night, dark and light, the same way, if we have angels, we would also have the darker entities.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. Uh,
Well, it's
it is
kind
a
of like,
dual word.
yeah, like yin and yang, and you get people have the other you. There's this other idea, like the Victorian,
Yes,
like other self, and
and
the looking glass self. Trying to figure out well, like which self is this.
yes, yes. And so sometimes we've also taken those, and that's our shadow part, where we've taken sometimes, somebody said that, hey, your voice isn't too good and you shouldn't speak, or just be quiet, you talk too much, just as an example. And then somewhere, maybe the person's taken it inside them. And so there's that shadow part, and we go like, oh, maybe my voice is not good and maybe I should not speak enough. And then that shadow. So, yes, there's the darker entities, and then there's the darker part in us, or the shadow part in us, which has owned that, which is sort of living with that hidden, um, just a hidden living, really, or
Yeah, like
hiding.
mask. People talk about in terms of like masks, but
Mhm.
it might be how they relate to it, but it's really what you're saying. But people relate to what they can understand. So somebody might feel it's a mask or it's the
Mhm.
other you, and it's like this other, this entity, which is a different way of thinking about it. But they might not want to go there. It's like, oh, how could that happen? How could this other entity be in me? And so it might be too hard for them to grasp at the moment.
Yeah, but I believe in, like, just sharing and making people aware. Sometimes, if I don't talk about this, um, or a lot of, even I know a lot of healers, they tend to not talk about it. But then you haven't really helped people completely, because they need to know. Once we know, and this is the beautiful thing, right? Like, I have been scared of all of these darker entities. I've been really, really scared. Like, what the hell, like somebody else is, doing certain things and so on, which happens. Like if you look at the times where you've made a mistake, or where you've just made an irrational, very quick decision, that's what's happening, really. So it is very true. But stop being afraid. They're still in your body. It's almost like there's somebody else who's in your house. And you can tell them, hey, get out. Like it is your house. It's your body. You can tell them that, hey.
Yeah, well, you gotta take charge. A lot of times it's like being able to understand is like there's all this subconscious, there's these like entities, there's the darker you there, and if you don't accept like that reality, then it's gonna continue because like if something
Mm,
goes unchecked, well, it's gonna just kind of devolve, or you're gonna get in
yeah.
a worse position. So until you actually address like what is that the situation that's actually occurring, it's hard because like anytime you do something hard, it's going to be like you said, it's a lot of work. It's not meant to be easy because then those other entities want to be there. The darker you wants to kind of be taking the lead. For you to take the lead means you have to step up. So if you have to
Correct.
step up, then I mean, you haven't been stepping up. Well, it's like the default to go back to like phoning it in. It's like it's easier to just phone it in, but you could be in a very toxic situation. And maybe you've gotten comfortable with that toxic situation, right? But like
Yes.
it's not where you want to be. But like you have to
I Yep, great point. And I think, when people come and say, well, for example, I'm not making enough money, or I'm in this relationship and my boyfriend does this, or my girlfriend, whoever, I'm always in this. This is what I ask them, that just say this, that I do not have enough money and I love it because, and they don't like the sentence, right? But there's always a trade off. Like, what are you trading it in for? Even the darker entities that we talked about, when they come in, they actually come in because at some place, some point, there was some exchange agreement, there was something that you liked. So there could be very simple examples like, you were learning to drive when you were 15 or 18, whatever the age is, right? You were learning to drive and you were so scared. And so you allowed a being to come in, and that being just drove for you so that you could feel a little bit more confident and comfortable, which is, well, I would still say you don't want to learn to drive that way. You don't want to give anyone the charge of your body because they can do other things as well. But then after the time, after you've learned to drive, they're still there as well. And regardless, it is your body, it is your space. Just like you wouldn't open your house to strangers and you wouldn't tell them, hey, come on in. Like,
yeah,
so if you have a boundary there, you should have a boundary with your body, with
boundary.
your own
Yeah,
space.
you need to have boundaries with yourself, with your own being, and
Yes,
and that's probably a concept that's probably folks might have a hard time getting their head around it. But like if when you start to be more expansive and not be stuck in dogma or stuck in your own in what you know, because what
hmm,
you know right now is not what you could know, right? And
correct.
just because that's what you learned doesn't mean that's
Yeah,
the only thing in the world. That's the only
correct.
thing in
Like
the
think.
universe.
Yeah, so think of the boundary, think of the trade-off that you are doing. And do you like the trade-off? Like, why are they coming in? Do you like it? So question that. Why is it that something is happening in your life? And then shift that around, or get okay with it. All right, that I am in this really bad relationship because I'm getting some sort of financial help or whatever. And or work
Yeah,
up
are
to
you
a
okay with
place where, okay, like, now I don't like it, like it's not enough anymore, I want better, so then kick it. But and that's why it's the stepping up. You need to then really step up, and you need to own whatever it was. There was a fear that was keeping you in there. Maybe there was a lack of money and you were still okay with being in this unsufferable relationship because there was a trade off. And then you have got to step up. You've got to have your own money or your own place, whatever that is that you're getting out. But you've got to do that to be able to then take the next step.
I think it's the fear of that unknown step that
Yes.
people would rather stay in the safety of the discomfort because they might be more fearful of the step that gets them out of that because they don't know what's going to happen. And the thing is, sometimes like you can't know everything that's going to happen and plan every little bit of your life. I mean, you try to be smart and not do things that are totally like going to throw you off the rails. But sometimes
Yes.
like doing the on the path you are is off the rails. The path you're on is off the rails. So to get off of it is actually not the scary thing to do. It's actually the better thing to do.
Mhm. What I usually suggest at that time is like just lean in a little bit, like lean into your intuition, lean into your space where you're getting those ideas, and just ask, what is it? What is the tiniest step that I can do now? Like, it doesn't have to be the biggest mountain, and Rome wasn't built in a day, but talk about the tiniest baby step that you can do now. Like, if it's scary, what is a little thing that you can do?
Little
Just,
wins. Like if you can, because some people want it all or nothing. So if you got
mhm,
that all or nothing, 0 to 100, right? And like being a musician is like I didn't go 0 to 100 learning the piano. It takes
mhm,
years to get to a certain point, and people might not want to, probably didn't want to listen to me when I was at 0 to 10. You probably don't want to hear somebody, learning that violin before they're at 100. But like to get to 100, you have to go through it. Now it might be uncomfortable, but it's kind of like you have to go through it to get to it. It's kind of simple.
yeah. I'm just imagining like someone just learning a music instrument and
Yeah,
0 to
it's
10, and
very
you've got to
annoying. Not to
listen to
just,
it.
it's annoying to yourself, but also it's annoying to people around you. So
Yeah.
it becomes something that's like, well, then you have to, in order to be able to do it, there has to be a certain level of support, or wait, how do you do it? But like then you have to figure out, it's like, well, I've got to, I'm going to get to it. So you find a way to do it, to find a way to make it so it doesn't isn't impossible. It's like you can make it possible by like,
The key word there is trust. Like somehow you've got to have that faith. And when you're saying, or when someone's saying that, hey, I need to go, either all in or nothing, that's very much control, right? Like that's very much, I'm trying to control the output. It has to be this way. How about faith and how about trust? And just because if you are controlling, you're going to be in that fighting element. So, well, when you're controlling, and you could also do this as a physical exercise, like try and control or maybe hold on to something. And of course, when you're holding on, like if I hold on to the bottle, I'm really just going to hold on to it, right? Like my hands are contracted. Um, then you cannot expect the universe or others to help you out because that's how your energy is. If you're vibrating from a really contracted
mm,
place, from a controlling space, you're controlling everything that's coming in. You've got all the barricades around. You're not really allowing flow. You're not really allowing anything else to come in.
yeah,
Whereas when you settle down, and that's why your insights, like just look at your life. When do you get insights? When you get the best creative ideas? That's not a time when you're saying, okay, hey, idea, come to me. Like
yeah. You
it
have to be more
will.
open to it. You have to be more willing to receive. It's
You
like the
have to be
idea or collaborate with the universe.
correct. Correct. Like you have to just be more relaxed. You have to just let it be. So if you're really operating in a very finite world because you're saying, this is what I want, well, then that's what you're going to get back as well, right? Because the universe is a mirror. So if you're operating from that, well, this or that, then universe is saying, okay, this or that is what you will get. You don't get anything in between. To shift that dynamic, to feel like, okay, I don't, and especially when people say life's not working out for me, I go like, okay, what is your attitude? What are you doing today? Where are you allowing that? So some people, and I like to give this example, some people will get up, like even when they get in the car, they'll go like, okay, this guy cut me off and the traffic is very busy. Like they'll find problems. It's almost as if you get up in the
Yeah, to
morning
look
and
for
you
the
go like,
trigger.
yeah, and it's like, okay, let me collect the amount of things that are going to trigger me today. So every day we start with this person did this, right? And there's like
Yeah,
a list that goes on throughout the day, like this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. And I'm asking you to just shift it instead. If you want that, change, shift that. And instead of looking for the wrongs, look for the rights. Look for, well, the sun was shining today. I got clean water today. I've had this nice conversation, but look for the goods. And even if it feels like really banal, like, maybe you take sleeping on your bed as granted, but there are people who don't have a bed to sleep.
Yeah, you take the benefits. Like I'm a cancer survivor, and the reason I'm here is because I looked at it as like an opportunity. Because once I got through it, I said maybe I should look at things. If I can beat cancer, then I shouldn't look at traveling as a big problem. So I went and lived in Japan. It's like pre-cancer me, I was scared of doing that. Pre-cancer, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing with the podcast, because that person was like had a lot of fear of certain things. But once you get past a certain it's like this kind of crucible moment happens, and you shouldn't have to have the crucible moment happen to get you to be in a different state. But if you actually can read that moment and say, hey, there, you can take something as an opportunity rather than like there's no bad note to a musician that's a master musician. It's an opportunity to evolve the song. Rather than being a bad note, it's an opportunity to actually change the song. So it's like it's not a bad thing. So you could look at it, and if you look at it that way, it's a different mindset. But it's a
Wow,
different way of
there's so much depth in that. And kudos to you for surviving cancer. I hope you're like totally cured.
yeah, I was 27 when I have it. I'm 57, so I got through it.
Wow, well done. And it's good. I mean, in a way, it's good that it happened at an early age as well, because, like you say, there's a before and an after. And after that, your life just changes. And it's amazing. It's amazing how you've turned it around as well. It's amazing how you're then able to work on and also realize like life is, I think this is the sad part, because I think of my daughter's loss as kind of that moment as well. But I also think personally for me, I think of it almost like I'm not wishing it on others, but I think for me that that was a blessing, because I look at the before and I look at how just depressive my life was. And in a way, thank God that that happened, because I needed to wake up. I wasn't really living. And my
Mhm.
life after her is living. And that's to me like what you're mentioning as well, that after that you've gone ahead and gone like, okay, what do I really want to do in life? Okay, let's go ahead and let's change something. So I'm going to go ahead and live in Japan, or I'm going to try out new things. I'm going to do podcasts and so on. So that's really, really amazing, because you've started living life after that.
Yeah, because like you're so fearful. People can be fearful of life, or looking forward to the fact that every day is an opportunity. Like whatever I didn't do yesterday, that's yesterday. Every day that I'm here, there's an opportunity to change the game. Right? Every day that you're here,
Totally.
that you could get somewhere that you never imagined. And that's where like your capacity as a human being, because you're so untapped. Like you are your resource. And
Totally.
when you
And
real
this is what I see so many times. And I think it brings me back to the Akashic Records, because this is where it really gets me. So I'll talk about me, won't talk about any of my clients. And the work that I do now and the work that I want to do, like I want to spread more light in the world. I really want people to live happier, more meaningful lives. And you know how many times I've tried to do that? Like at least 200 lifetimes. I'm not kidding you. But I mean, like, imagine not just this life, like we think that, oh, this life is hard, right? Think of 200 times again and again, reset again and again, like trying to do the same thing. And I never really always fully had the balls to go all the way through.
oh wait. Hmm.
And I'm just giving myself as an example. Other people could have different things and so on. So you think like, and I'm talking to anyone who's listening to this and thinking about whatever pattern, whatever it is that they really want to do over in their life. You're thinking like you're tired of it in this lifetime. Imagine how many lifetimes you've lived that. And I can guarantee, like, if it really irks you, it's got to be at least 40 or 50 lifetimes. Like, it really sucks big time. But I'm not saying it for that. I'm saying it more like Just make this lifetime the one where you will make the
Count.
change,
Yeah.
where you go like, okay,
At this
over
time,
this
you gotta do
fear,
it. You gotta do it.
yes, this time I'm going to do this, because you look at the patterns. Look at the patterns for you. Look at the patterns around you. Look at the patterns in your family, in your friends. Like, I guarantee you, if you're struggling with, okay, I attract the wrong sort of person all the time, I want you to look at your friends around, and do
Mm,
they have good relationships? I want you to look at your families. And so then understand that this is a pattern, and this is a pattern that you came in. This is like your perfect learning moment. You're put into this training environment again and again and again. And guess what? You graduate the minute you take that
you
ownership and
shift
you
it.
go
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to shift it. That's when you change the whole game.
Change the
This
whole
is
game. Yeah.
this is why you are here. Like, we it sounds bad, but it's not really. Like, we mock up or we live the same situations again and again, because our soul really wants us to heal that particular part, to learn some lesson and move on. Like, it's
Like
not wanting to punish us.
you gotta do that 10,000 years instead of 10,000 hours. You're doing like the years of training to finally, oh, now I get it. But like,
Yes, so don't do the 10,000, like, when it comes to you, just go like, okay, I'll go and shift it. Like, you're thinking of one change that you're going to make. Maybe someone wants to move to another place. Maybe someone wants to get out of a relationship that's not working for them. Um, but like, really step up. If you know that inside your heart that this is what you need to do what you can. Start with the small baby steps. Ask the universe for guidance and go like, hey, what is it that I can do now? I understand that this is my lesson. What is it that I can do now? But go out and take that step. Take that step towards your motivation, towards your meaning.
well, I think that's where we might have to leave it today because I do have some other appointments. But we do have your artoflifecenter.com/live, and that will be fully clickable. So if that's how people can connect with you.
This is where they will come in and they can join my live healing sessions. If they want to connect with me, they can just do the website, which is artoflifecenter.com,
Mhm.
or they could also just go on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. They could find me with Kanika Energy Coach, Kanika. That's me. And you'll have that in the show notes as well. Yeah, that's where they can find information about me. They can connect more with me. They can ask me all the questions, and I'll be so glad to help them.
Yeah, and that's fully clickable within the podcast description. We were just live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube channels. Those channels are immediately active. They're active right now, but as soon as we're off the air, the link to artlifecenter.com will be fully clickable. And so we do encourage people to click that if they want to follow up and get in, or interested in what we've been talking about tonight. I want to thank you for being a guest on the Fam Electric Coach podcast.
Thanks a lot, Phantom. I really, really enjoyed it. Loved your insights as well.
Thank you. Have a good night.